Lyedie.
Hi, Linda. So here we are back at Old Frog Pond Farm in a different season. I came down to pick up our conversation again. And I just want to acknowledge how much fun it's been that in the middle of the winter we got together and decided to just get together and talk and see what would happen. And it feels like it's growing. And when we talked earlier, we decided to move from pruning, which was our last theme, to creativity, which, as I see it, is pruning creates space, and now we're looking at how we want to fill that. How do we fill that space? So that's our theme for today. Linda, you have landed this incredible sculpture that is now going to be in this exhibition, and it's going to be here permanently. It's the Old Frog now has a place in Old Frog Pond Farm. So we're going to talk about creativity, and I also really want to hear about your process of creating that sculpture.
Splash. Splash is the name of the sculpture. A large frog that is on a post in the middle of the pond that took 22 years. Who would have guessed? I wasn't consciously thinking, oh, I really want to make a frog. I wasn't thinking at all. I did see the post, and there was a space
On the post.
and I thought that is a wonderful, special place for a sculpture. But it took a long time. So the significance of the frog is that this is Old Frog Pond Farm. I named it when I arrived in 2001, and I named it after a Japanese haiku. Probably the most well-known haiku in the world. By a haiku master, Basho. And the poem is, old pond, frog jumps, sound of water. And it's also translated sometimes, splash of water. And that's what art does, I think. Has that potential of holding so much and something different or a little bit different for each person who sees it.
Yeah, and also the conversation that's now going on between sculpture and poetry, and sense of place and poetry and sculpture, and the way that creativity is a conversation that's really ongoing, and that we tap into that conversation and see what it is that wants to emerge. So in those 22 years, I love that, because so often people think they need to create something faster. And there's such an important element of listening or sensing for what it is that wants to happen that takes time sometimes. So can you give me a sense of what the process was and when it started to be clear that this was a frog?
It sounds simple, perhaps, and it was very easy. I did see a frog, not a particularly interesting frog, like a frog, this was in North Carolina, who was standing up, like near a brewery or something. I mean, I can picture it, but it was kind of a sheet metal frog. And I saw it, and I remember thinking, the farm needs a frog. Like, I'm gonna make a frog. And I never thought of that before. And obviously I've seen other frogs in 22 years.
Right.
And I've seen frogs because we do have a lot of frogs here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't know when that's gonna kind of hit you.
Yeah.
And patience. I think that's a really important part of the creative process. That, yeah, you maybe want to get it done or you want to figure it out, but you can't just figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, it's a process.
The other thing that intrigues me about this piece is that the base for this piece happened first.
Yeah, it was waiting.
It was there already.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was there, and I knew from day one here that it was the perfect place for a sculpture.
Usually the base comes later.
Right. No, it was
Really
just waiting there. And then I think I wasn't ready. Like it is when you see it. It encompasses so much of what this place is about. Somehow it does. Through its texture, it's very pointy and kind of long-nailed feet and long legs and yet also prayerful hands. So it's a little outrageous and yet it's quiet. And it does somehow embody like this place. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like if I had just said, oh, I want to make a frog years ago, I probably would have just like, okay, I need to look, what does a frog look like?
Right. So you would
and
have
try
been
to do it from the
imposing
outside.
idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of really having that outer and inner and external and internal in balance. Like you want both, I think.
Yeah.
The great fear would be that I would make it and like the legs would be too close together and they wouldn't fit over it. So sculpture, unlike painting, for example, like it has to work in the physical world. It has to balance, it has to be able to stand up.
Yeah.
Those legs, they needed to be hang down. I wanted them hanging down, but they had to be wide enough. And they had to balance on there nicely. And I'm making this all in wax. So then the feet fall off or the leg falls off and there's a lot of that. And I'm like running around grabbing like some cans or things to like prop up that foot so that it doesn't break off. And then, you know, you need to measure and you want the feet to kind of relate to each other. You don't want the hip to be forward on one side and back on the other. And, you know, sculpture has to work from all directions. And that's such a charming part of that installation, is that you see it from the side. You then can walk over the little bridge and see straight on. And then you really see the feet out there and the reflection of the water, and then you can go around to the other side. I keep experimenting, and that's part of it, is that experimenting and tweaking and turning and until it clicks.
It clicks.
You say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the click like for you?
I always know.
Yeah?
I do. And that's like patience, like you can't rush that click. Like it's right, and then I trust it by leaving a piece for some time. And I will walk in the studio and I'll kind of glance and I'll look at it and I'll wave. But I know then over time that it's settled. Like I have no urge in me to try anything else.
Oh, nice. Okay. So that's a sense of doneness, is that there's nothing left in you to tweak and change.
Yeah.
And so what happened is this frog is new, but This frog is also really old.
Yeah, the poem told us, right? Well, I guess the
Yeah.
pond is old, but
Well,
the frog is
still
old.
You look at that frog and
It's pretty.
feels
like
old.
the texture.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you really landed the sense of that really
thank you.
beautifully.
It's so wonderful to take this little time with you. Yeah, just to be together and talk about the stuff we love, right?
Yeah, we made a little quietness right here.
Yeah.
For a little while. It's
Yeah.
great. Yep.
Thank you, Lyedie.
Thank you, Linda.
Until next time.
Yes.